Greetings everyone, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. As per the title of this video, today I'm going to be doing the anti-TBR tag. Now this was a tag that was circulating around 2020, 2021, something like that. It was originally created by Nicole Her Books, which I will link down her original video in the description below. But this tag is basically just comprised of a bunch of questions about books that you have no interest in reading, which I thought was such a fun idea, and I've watched so many of these videos in the past, so I really wanted to make my own. I'm a firm believer in never saying never, so any book that I mention in this video, I'm not saying that I am absolutely outright just never ever going to read this book in my life. I'm just saying that I have no interest in reading them right now, and it kind of depends on the book. Some of these books I'm like, yeah, I just don't see myself reading it in the foreseeable future, and some of them I'm like, yeah, I'm just definitely never ever gonna read them. But I know myself, and I know that I can be swayed by the opinions of others, and so if someone I respect is like, no, you have to read that, you're wrong for not wanting to, then I probably will pick it up. But we'll just have to wait and see about that. I do have a feeling that I'm going to ruffle some feathers with a couple of answers to these questions, and I just want you to know that if I am listing a book that you really love, I'm so sorry. It's nothing personal, obviously. It's just how I feel. We all have different tastes and opinions, and this is just kind of where I stand as of right now. Also, I think it goes without saying that I was not tagged in this video. I sort of just decided on my own and tagged myself. It's called self-love. But if you are a book creator and you're watching this video and you also want to make this video, tag, you're it. That's right, I'm tagging you because I really do want to see more people's responses to it, particularly some of the smaller booktubers that I follow. I would love to see what your anti-TBR would look like. Okay, so the first question is a popular book everyone loves that you have no interest in reading. I had an immediate answer come to mind, and then I remembered that it was part of a series and that there's a question later in this tag that pertains to series you have no interest in reading. So I'm gonna have to save that answer for a later question. But I had to really think about this one and think of standalone books that I have zero interest in reading, and there really aren't that many, particularly books that are considered to be popular, but I did come up with two. The first one is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This one has been popular for some time. It's kind of considered like a modern classic, I think, to some people, but I just have never had a desire to read it. I don't read a ton of dark academia, even though I think I'd really like it, but I have a feeling that I might generally be more interested in contemporary dark academia versus something like The Secret History, which was written in 1992. So for now, it's going on this list, but again, I might read it, so don't hold me to this. There were quite a few standalone romance books that came to mind. In particular, the most popular book of 2023, or like one of the most popular books of 2023, The 7-Year Slip, I do not have any interest in reading, and I really don't think that I'm gonna pick it up at any point in time. So that's going to be my second answer to this question. All right, the second question on this tag is, what is a classic book or author you don't have an interest in reading? Oh my, this one actually took some thought too, not because I read a ton of classics, because I do not read a ton of classics, but there are a lot of classics that I do want to read, so it was really hard pinpointing which ones I had actually like zero interest in reading. The first one though is anything written by Shakespeare. I did read some Shakespeare in high school. Wasn't necessarily a fan. If I were to pick up something by Shakespeare, it would be to say that I had read something by Shakespeare, not because I actually had some kind of innate desire to read any of his works on my own. So that's a classic author that I have no interest in reading. A book that I have no interest in reading is War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. Yeah, I feel like this goes without saying, but I just am not necessarily drawn to the idea of reading a 1,300-page Russian classic. I don't think I need to say anymore. The next question is an author you have read a couple of books from and have decided their books are not for you. I've got two answers to this question as well. The first one is Blake Crouch. I have read Recursion and Dark Matter by this author, both which are really loved books. books in the book community. And I gave Dark Matter, I think, like a 3 stars, and I gave Recursion a 2. And I just don't anticipate that I will ever pick up anything by Blake Crouch again. Blake Crouch really likes to play with time and the idea of other dimensions and like multiple universes and things like that. And so his plots get really, really convoluted to the point where I feel like you as the reader are so confused that you kind of just have to accept whatever outcome he presents you with and like view it as being the only possible outcome. But in my mind, his endings never quite add up and it leaves me really frustrated. So I don't think I'm going to pick up anything by Blake Crouch in the future. The second author that I'm going to name should be no surprise. I've talked about her quite a bit on this channel in the few videos that I've done, and that is Colleen Hoover. I have read 5 books of hers now. I have liked a couple and I've really, really, really hated several. I just really don't like the way that she romanticizes toxic relationships, and I have a feeling that that is going to be a theme that continues on with her other books. I don't think that her writing is anything special, and so I just really have no reason to ever read anything by Colleen Hoover again. So, no mo, co-ho, faux, me. All right, the next question is a genre that you have no interest in or a genre you have tried to get into and couldn't. This was pretty easy for me. I just don't really think that I have that much of an interest in horror, like true horror. I'm not that interested in reading about like blood, guts, gore, that sort of thing. I really enjoy mysteries and thrillers, but to me, horror is completely separate from it. Something else that came to mind that isn't necessarily a genre, it's more of like a trope or like a subgenre, if you will. But I personally don't enjoy books that have unreliable narrators or books that have some sort of like fever dream-esque quality to them where we can't trust anyone. So if I ever mention that a book like that is on my TBR, please let me know if I'm not already well aware, because it is highly likely that I will not enjoy myself. Okay, the next question is a book you have bought but will never read. This can be a book you have unhauled or returned to the library unread. I've got 2 for you. These are both fantasy books and they're both insanely popular fantasy books. So prepare yourself. I know that I'm going to upset some people with this very controversial opinion, but the first one, I'm kind of nervous. The first one is Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. Here's the thing. I grew up a Harry Potter girl. I never read Lord of the Rings. I never watched the movies. I still haven't watched all the movies to this day. And every time I have tried, I just get bored. I just get so bored. And I've tried at least twice now to start reading it, and it's just always been a DNF for me. And I'm always trying to push myself because I know how beloved this book and this series are, but ultimately I feel like it's not for me, and I just don't know what else to say about it. I think that there's a chance that when I have kids, I will read this to them so that they can be a part of the Lord of the Rings fandom. But as of right now, for myself as an adult, I don't have any interest in reading them. I don't want to push myself to do something that is just like unenjoyable for me. So this is definitely a book that I've purchased, and I've actually purchased The Hobbit and then the whole like series, the whole trilogy of Lord of the Rings, and they're just sitting on this bookshelf in our hallway. But luckily my boyfriend really loves this series, so they're not going to waste, but they're just not for me. The second book that I've purchased that I feel confident in saying I will never ever read, The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. This is the first book in the Wheel of Time series. Again, like I said, it's a really popular fantasy series, but it's also 14 books long or something crazy like that. And I've just never had even the tiniest bit of desire to pick this up. I don't know why I bought it. I really don't know why I bought it. I think I wanted to want to read it, and then I never wanted to read it. And so it's just been sitting on my bookshelf for like 4 years now. But again, you know who did read it? My boyfriend. So it was actually okay that I bought it because he ended up reading the physical copies of the first 4 books that I got. So if ever I'm not gonna read a book, my boyfriend will probably read it. He is the biggest reader that I know. So there you have it. The second to last question in this tag is a series you have no interest in reading or a series you started and have DNF'd. Obviously, Lord of the Rings would have been a good answer to this. Wheel of Time is a good answer to this as well. But this is a throwback to the first question. This book and this series was literally the first thing that came to mind when I even heard of the anti-TBR tag, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses. I am just pretty positive that I am never gonna read this series. I know that people go crazy, they go nuts over ACOTAR and Sarah J Maas, but I don't know, I'm just not interested. I've heard a lot of people say that you need to power through the first book in order to get to the second book, which is where things really pick up, and I just really don't like that idea of having to plow through 600 pages of a book to get to the good part. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So you can expect that I'm probably never going to read ACOTAR. That being said, I'm not opposed to reading Sarah J Maas. The Crescent City series is actually the most appealing to me of her 3 series because it takes place in like an urban fantasy setting where people have access to technology, and that is really intriguing to me, that whole idea. Because typically in fantasy books, they kind of take place in like a medieval type of setting, and I just kind of want to see something that takes place in a more contemporary setting. I think that that would be really interesting. But I know that a lot of people who love ACOTAR actually don't like the Crescent City series, so like, what do I know? But if anything, I think that that's going to be the first Sarah J Maas series that I ever pick up. But as of right now, I haven't read anything by her, and I don't really feel like I'm missing out, but who knows? Okay, and then the very last question on this tag is a new release that you have no interest in reading. And I'm gonna be honest, I just don't have an answer to this question for 2 reasons. One, I don't have any idea of what books are set to be released this year, so I don't even have anything to like work off of. The only book that I know was supposed to be released in 2024 is The Women by Kristen Hanna, and I desperately want to read that book. Kristen Hanna is one of my favorite authors, but yeah, I don't know of any other new releases. The second reason that I don't have an answer to this question is I just feel like because I don't know what the public's opinion on new releases is, I don't have a good idea of whether I'm interested in reading them or not. Like, I just won't know until people have kind of started to review the books, if you get what I'm saying. Because often I can't really tell if I'm gonna like a book purely based off of the blurb on the back of the book. A lot of times my book recommendations just come from people. I don't have an answer to this question as of right now. There are no new releases that I have 0 interest in reading. I mean, I'll read all of them. So there you go. And that completes all of the questions. I hope that I didn't offend you with any of my answers. If I did, please don't take it personally. I'm not trying to like hurt anyone's feelings with this tag. I'm just trying to show you what I'm not interested in reading and what you probably shouldn't expect to see on this channel. And just because I think it's fun to talk about what we don't like, not just what we really enjoy. It is what it is. Like I said, if you create book content on YouTube and you haven't done this tag, I highly recommend you do it. It's so fun. And you can say that I tagged you because I did. Boop. If you don't create content, you can still leave me a comment down below stating maybe like 1 or 2 books that you personally have no interest in reading. I'd love to know. I've been watching a lot of anti-TBR tag videos, even though they're all from like 2021. Hope you're having a good one, and I will see you in the next video.